Antron Brown wasn't the only explosive moment seen during NHRA Mellow Yellow drag racing qualifying at the Summit Racing Equipment Southern Nationals. Tim Wilkerson and Jack Beckman also had big booms that saw two funny car bodies get completely destroyed. Well, during Sunday's early rain delay, there was enough time for the fellowship of drivers to get together with our own Mike Dunn to talk about their explosive moments.
Well, guys, obviously it was a pretty exciting weekend, and we're going to go in chronological order. Antron, Friday night, you had the first incident. Take us through the process of that.
Well, Mike, I tell you what, you can see the accident here on the screen, but when I came down the track, everything was fine. We were coming down the track just straight and smooth, and right when I got to the finish line, when they shot off, the chute, I just felt the chute just almost like I deployed them, and it just popped, and right when it popped, the car popped at the same time. And when it popped, everything was in pure chaos, because I was totally, the car was out of control, and it sliding from end to end, and the only thing I remember was after it came to a stop, for the first time I got out of emotion get the best of me. I was actually pissed off, because I just tore up a good race car, you know what I mean? And I was thinking about what could I do to stop it, and I knew I had a lot of work cut out for my guys to get it back. But the good thing is that our safety capsule that we made for that car did its job. You can see where part of the front wing came back and tried to take the windshield out right in front, and nothing got to me. I was able to get up and walk away, and that's one thing to be thankful for, that you can walk away from something like that.
Well, and you said you were mad, and we even said on the show that I was glad to see that you were pretty mad about the whole situation. That was a good sign. But you and I were talking too about what caused the problem, because it was similar to the one you had back in Pomona last year at the Winter Nationals, where parts of the manifold are going out and taking out the tire. And we had talked about the fact that it almost seems like you get those explosions where you get the small ones, the burst panels enough to relieve it, you don't have any issues. You get the bigger ones, it blows the burst panel out and it lifts a supercharger off and relieves it. But you kind of had one that was in between. It wasn't real big, and it seemed like it wasn't enough to lift that supercharger off, and then it blows the manifold off. Have we talked with anybody about possibly trying to fix that problem?
Yes, and one thing about it is I know Alan Johnson, he's working on a fix with a new manifold coming out, you know, making it more stout in the back, just like the Force Camp's got a really good manifold that has a double burst panel, 2 in the front like we currently run, with 2 on the back, and the back is beefed up to stop that problem from happening, because in a dragster that's crucial, because the thing about it is when that happens, like you saw there in those 2 accidents, it takes out the rear tires, and once it takes out the rear tire, the tire blew off and it took out the rear wing, and that's what really sends the car haywire, where you lose control. And that's something that we just got to get a handle on, and we got to break down, and we got some better restraint systems and stuff that we're working on, and we're making that better, so we're running some of that stuff right now. But the big term fix is definitely going to be in the manifold department. I think for all these incidents that you saw today, that's one major causes, like you saw in Wilk's accident and also in Jack's accident.
Yeah, and Tim, I want to go with yours. Yours happened the following day on Saturday in qualifying. Big explosion. Now, you were experimenting with the body with the side vents on there, and I love your shirt here, right? You know, what could possibly go wrong? We're looking at the video. What could possibly go wrong
in 4 seconds.
Tim, Antron and I are medium and large. We'd like one of these, please.
Unfortunately, that's a problem, right? But, you know, to interject on what you were talking about with the intake manifolds, Alan Johnson has actually made some new studs, and because this is a problem, we were all related to this problem. I've been involved with some discussions through NHRA and their tech department, and they're very on top of this. They're trying to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen, because like we talked about yesterday, we can't have this. It just can't go on and continue to go on. Now, mine, on the other hand, you know, my car broke a camshaft, which is just something that you're not going to happen very often, and when that kind of thing happens, all the valves stop turning, and well, the motor doesn't, so it just blows the thing into smithereens. But Alan's actually come up with a stud that is going to help relieve that. He's undercutting the stud, where the stud may relieve itself as you have a percussion like that, instead of blowing the intake manifold into smithereens, where I actually got hit with shrapnel in there. I got a wounded toe and a wounded hand, but just because of the shrapnel. So we're trying to get past all of that now, and with all the smart people involved, I think you're going to see a lot of things come down the pipe. And like you talked about Force's intake manifold, we've looked at that ourselves too, and quite frankly, I'm on the fence on both of those. We have a stronger intake manifold now than we used to have. You know, there's like a waffle in the bottom of these intake manifolds. We never had those up until the last couple of years. Well, now instead of blowing the floor out of the intake manifold, now it blows the damn runners out of the thing, right? So it's like, did we make it better? Well, yeah, we made it stronger here, but it's still weak up here. So Alan came up with the idea, well, maybe now what we do is let's relieve the percussion altogether. Maybe it'll blow the blower completely off the thing. We got terrific restraints holding the blower on the cars. So if we can do that, maybe we won't have such a percussion. Now, will it save that funny car body? Probably not. It probably will still blow it up. But if we can keep the shrapnel out of the driver's compartment, off the rear wing, the tires, maybe we can keep that kind of thing from happening. And it's an ongoing problem, though. You're absolutely right. But we went from stronger, we're talking about making them even stronger. We're talking about billet or cast aluminum intake manifolds now. That's been in some discussions, but I really don't think that anyone knows until you run them, right? Yeah. Until that happens on Antron's car, and we go, hey, look, didn't knock the tire off of it. Dang, that was the best thing we ever did. Or now the body's still in one piece. But,
well, and you said that about the body. When you try that, because we won't know until we have an explosion, and then we'll have to assess and see how it works.
We actually had a guy in the stands that had some neat pictures of our car when it blew up. I haven't got to see him yet. Bob Wilber, he's got to see him, and he said that it's really pretty interesting that the body, in theory, was working pretty well. Now, I haven't got to see this in slow motion really good to watch it, but it's supposed to blow them side windows out, and that's where the percussion is supposed to go. Well, he's got pictures of the thing. One side window's blown completely out, and there's fire running right out the sides of it, just like I designed it. But unfortunately, I think that the 40 thousandths aluminum and 1/8" plex, Lexan is just not enough for the kind of percussion that we're seeing. It won't hold on to that. It won't relieve itself quick enough to let that percussion out.
Yeah, and hindsight's always 20/20. But let's go to you, Jack. Yeah. We've seen this movie before with you, unfortunately.
I told Gary Jones I've been to this play 3 times. It never ends well. I don't want another ticket.
Well, what happened on that particular run?
It looks, sometimes it's hard to tell. When you look at the carnage afterwards and you're doing an autopsy on the engine, sometimes it's hard to tell what came first. In our case, it looks like it seized the guide on an intake valve, and then what happens is the spring doesn't have enough pressure to close the thing. That intake valve hangs open, the spark gets in the intake manifold, and it's a fuel air bomb. You guys are talking about what can we do to eliminate this stuff happening, and it's an easy fix. You just don't let us put nitro in the cars or weld the trailer doors closed. There's no panacea for this that will fix every single thing. And Tim addressed NHRA is always looking at what can we do to mitigate and minimize these things happening. And we're working on a lot of stuff. The bodies, we went to the double front restraints, and ours stayed on the front half of it. On the tether system, NHRA made it optional, and I agree with that choice. All 3 Toyotas run them. The 2 Coletta cars run the Murph McKinney kit. Jim had kind of designed his own system. But the Fords and the Toyotas are long hoods. The tethers would work in a completely different way, containing that weak point as they would on a Dodge. Johnny Gray at Sonoma, when his exploded, it was kind of a worst case for the driver.
Let me stop you right there, Jack. I mean, you have a tendency to go on a little bit.
No,
we know that about it, but we're going to get more from the 3 of you, but we're going to take a break right now. Stay right with us, and we'll be back shortly.